Good evening and a very warm welcome back to the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship powered by Grid Finder. We are here live for round 6 of the championship. It is the penultimate race of the season, which means it is also the final time we will run the 3 15-minute sprint race formats before the 50-minute endurance finale in a couple of weeks' time. But for now, we look ahead to round 6 of the championship, which is the Radical Club Challenge, another fantastic 750 Motor Club real-world series where Radical sports cars powered by motorcycle engines, in particular the SR3 model that has proven to be the most popular in recent years, and of course the newly rebranded series previously known as Bike Sports, previous to 2025, to the Radical Club Challenge in conjunction with Radical Motorsport and featuring the new SR1 in the same specification. You'll see it in the Haggerty Radical Cup UK. It is the most cost-effective way to race Radicals in the UK, because we had Leon Morel champion in 2024, I should say. And in fact, the Bike Sports raced twice at Donington Park, which is where we're racing here tonight. They raced on the national layout. That was Shane Stoney, who was victorious in both races there as their season opener. And then the season closer was held on the Grand Prix layout, which we're going to be racing on tonight. It was James Keeville and once again Shane Stoney who were victorious in the real world. But who will prevail tonight? Last time out at Brands Hatch, it was back to winning ways for championship leader Jake Hewlett, who took all 3 wins on his way to extending his championship lead over the reigning champion Trafford King. He had a couple of fantastic battles with Jackson Carden on his way to particularly the race 2 victory, where then they spent more time side by side than they were actually line astern in that particular race. But we do have another 3 15-minute races to come, as I say, before the 50-minute enduro at the end of the season in 2 weeks' time. Slightly different date. We pushed it back slightly to the 4th of February. In the championship, it is Jake Hewlett leading the way on 278 points. He's 9 clear of Trafford King, who in turn is about 35 ahead of Jackson Carden, who managed to pick up a few podium finishes last time out. And we now go to the cars for qualifying, this 10-minute session that will set the grid for all 3 races tonight. And there is championship leader Jake Hewlett in that sort of golf-coloured car, the blue and orange machine. Jake Hewlett, who has been rather unstoppable, 12 wins to his name so far this season. The only races he hasn't won were the 3 races in the Clios at Thruxton, where his PC wasn't exactly playing ball on that night, which rather delayed his entry into the race. And Trafford King in the yellow and black machine, that is his closest challenger in the championship. Trafford King, the reigning 750 Motor Club Winter Sim Championship champion. And he comes across the line to start a flying lap now down the Wheatcroft Straight. You see they take a little bit of the pit entry under braking for Red Gate. And we can ride on board with the reigning champion as he exits and now heads down the Craner curves in the Radical SR3, which is representing the Radical Club Challenge tonight, into the old hairpin. Very fast corner, lots of lock, a little bit of grass there on the exit. Heading back up the hill underneath the bridge towards McLean's now. Should be plenty of overtaking opportunities here in the 3 races to come tonight. And up to the highest point on the circuit at Coppice. Couple of cars struggling with the exit of the corner there, but luckily not really getting in Trafford King's way too terribly much. You see they've actually turned through the shortcut chicane. I was told it was going to be the Grand Prix layout tonight, but we are on the national layout, it seems. That was the first flying lap for Trafford King. a tenth of a second away from Jake Hewlett's provisional pole time of 104.3. And Jake Hewlett's going even faster at the moment, about a tenth of a second up through the first sector. Round McLean's he goes. Slightly flirting with danger on the exit of the track. Remember, they can utilize the curbing as much as they please. The curbs aren't considered an extension of the track limits. It's the grass where we need to start punishing drivers. And you see he's now over a quarter of a second up. So through the final chicane and down the Wheatcroft straight again, and it's going to be a 105.1, so a quarter of a second up on his previous time, and now puts more than 0.3 of a second between himself and Trafford King. Shay Brennan currently in third position, and Shay managed to pick up a podium finish last time out at Brands Hatch in the low cost in race number 2. And Jackson Carden, who was on the podium, in fact second in all 3 races last time out, there in 4th. Shay Brennan, who'll be competing in the Suzuki Swift Sport Challenge, the new series from the 750 Motor Club this year, which in fact broke a record already before we even got on track. The record being set for the fastest selling race cage from Tekiwa in its 50-year history. It's now sold 30 units since going on sale on November 14th. They'll be having their first race on May 11th at Silverstone as Jackson Carden gets it a little bit wrong through the chicane. Decides to exit out of there as Shay Brennan goes second fastest onto the front row of the grid. And just over a quarter of a second away, but Trafford King takes it back and very nearly comes across the car exiting the pit lane. So it's a tenth of a second between Hewlett and King. Hewlett going for his 4th pole position of the season. Trafford King had pole in the Clios in Thruxton, and then Jackson Carden managed to pip Jake Hewlett in the Carmel Porsche Trophy at Alton Park, which was the second meeting of the season. Alex Stockton here on track, heading down the Crane of Curves. I think that's the car that just came out of the pits. But we're over halfway through this session already. And it is provisionally Jake Hewlett on course for a 4th pole position of the season. And we can see he's lowered the benchmark even further by another 0.02 of a second, but he has got traffic in front of him now, so he's having to round up one of the cars and very nearly losing the back end in trying to do so. That's Shay Brennan he's trying to get around and manages to do so before they dip down the hill into the Crane of Curves. I wonder if Shay will tuck in behind and try and learn from Hewlett in front of them. Hewlett, of course, incredibly experienced in the world of esports as a Coanda SimSport team member since 2017, a sim racing coach and a real world coach as well after his incredible success in a very short amount of time racing in the real world. Tekiwa Type R Trophy champion in his debut season back in 2022. Of course, this was the track where Jake Hewlett made his debut in the 750 Motor Club Winter Sim Championship. It was the F1000s we were racing here a year ago, and that was the season finale back then. It's a very different car and track combination. Trafford King up to 2nd fastest again, but this time reducing the arrears to just 77 thousandths of a second in what is a little over a 65-second lap. Incredibly close once again at the front of the field. Trafford King just missing that last couple of percent he needs to usurp Hewlett at the front of the field. Heading back up the hill towards McLean's. Two very different lines you can take through there. I'm sure we'll see that in the race later on. Now out of Coppice and onto Starkey's Straight. Maybe a little bit of traffic up the road for him, but we run on board again up to 6th gear and then back down to third and hop, skip and jump over the curbs. And let's see where this time puts him. And it's a few tenths off on that particular occasion, but he's got another couple of bites of the cherry left with just over 2 minutes left on the clock. So Paul Forsyth here, fourth fastest. So he's split Shea Brennan and Jackson Carden. Paul Forsyth, who has been coming on strong in these more recent races, had a couple of podiums at Thruxton in the Clio Sport Trophy, and fought for podiums at Brands Hatch last time out, as we had a little bit of contact there with Jensen Swift, and didn't quite see who the car behind was, but it seemed like Swift got rather pushed into that spin at Redgate. There's Rory Mallinson here in 8th position. 16-year-old from Chester, who we anticipate will be racing in low cost later this year. At 9/10 down at the moment, but could still improve on his time. That's currently 1.3 seconds back from Jake Hewlett. And so Mallinson in the similar liveried car to Trafford King, and Mallinson does improve, but is immediately usurped by Callum Neve, I believe that was, who just went up to 7th fastest, and Alex Stockton up to 6th. So late time still coming in, spin in the background. And one car going off the road. Jensen Swift again, unfortunately, so this lap has ended about as disastrously as it started. Callum Neve there really pushing the limits on the exit of the old hairpin. Still heading up the hill. And who's that just went off in front of him? Was that Rory Mallinson? I believe it was. Just on the exit of McLean's. Not the first, and probably won't be the last. Ends up pulling over to the side of the road anyway. So here's Callum Neve. Clock has hit 0. Not seeing any times or improvements of late. Trafford King's come into pit lane, so he'll have to settle for second, as Callum Neve didn't improve on that previous lap. Shea Brennan's come to a stop as well, and so it will only be third for Brennan, and about 3/10 off of Jake Hewlett in the end. Hewlett's still on a fast lap. He doesn't really have any challengers for pole position at this point, and so let's see, he might still be able to breach his time. Well, he's 3/10 down on this lap as it stands, and so it does look like it's going to be a 4th pole position of the season for Jake Hewlett. Slides his way out of the chicane and gathered the car up, but it was not a risk that needed to be taken in the end, as Hewlett has scored his 4th pole position, and so we'll start all 3 races on pole this afternoon. Just 77 thousandths of a second in the end to Trafford King. Absolutely incredible stuff. So the full results from qualifying then, it's Jake Hewlett on top, and then Trafford King starting on the front row of the grid once again, as it was in the low-cost championship race at Brands Hatch last week. Shea Brennan starts in 3rd position ahead of Jackson Carden, and Paul Forsyth in 5th position. Those 3 have had some absolutely incredible battles in the last 2 rounds, very much highlighted in the Clios at Thruxton and the low cost last time out, and so very much looking forward to seeing those 3 starting alongside each other once again. Alex Stockton starts in 6th position, Callum Neve in 7th, and Ben Goodwin in 8th position. First time we've seen Ben Goodwin out for a few races, I believe. Rory Mallinson in 9th position, then Ryan Turner in 10th, Mad Chip starting from 11th, then Mark Crawford in 12th, Jensen Swift in 13th, Sam Hayes in 14th, and Simwolf VR rounding out the back of the grid. 15 car field for tonight, and 3 15-minute races to come, and if they've been anything like the last few meetings that we've had, then we're in for quite a bit of action and excitement. So while we wait for the grid to be formed, just a quick reminder: if you're racing with us in the 750 Motor Club this year, then registration for membership opens in just a few days' time. It's January 27th, and then entries will be open for specific races on the 10th of February as well. And also make sure that you have booked your place for the pre-season track day here at Donington Park. That'll be on the 9th of March. There will be scrutineers and 750 Motor Club staff on site for any of your pre-season queries. There is also a list of various race weekend test days available on the website, so 750mc.co.uk for all of that information. So to the grid then, and the first race of the night for round 6 of the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship, powered by Grid Finder. It's the top 2 in the championship on the front row once again, and we are underway. Big puff of smoke from the rear tyres, but it is Jake Hewlett who leads the field going into the first corner. Trafford King in second position, but Jackson Carden looks like he has been able to usurp Shea Brennan, has gone right around the outside of Redgate. Brennan's fighting back on the inside and will have the line into the Crane of Curves. And so very briefly, Jackson Carden had a glimpse at third position there with a slightly better launch, but ends up having to fall back in line. Gets an excellent run through the old hairpin though, so the top 5 is unchanged, with Paul Forsyth just waiting in the wings there in 5th position. But it's absolutely nose to tail. Callum Neve having some dramas at the rear of the field as the leaders make their way through Coppice for the first time, and it's very much nose to tail for second position as Jackson Carden tries to get the tighter line out of Coppice and down the Starkey Straight, and it's worked out for him. He's got almost a front nose alongside Shea Brennan there, but decides better of it going into the chicane for the first time of asking, so has to hang back in 4th position. That, of course, will be music to the ears of Paul Forsyth. Oh, one car getting it a bit wrong through the chicane, but there goes Shea Brennan on Trafford King for second position on the inside at Redgate. Trafford King managed to get a slightly better drive out of the corner, it looked like, and very much squeezing Brennan over to the curbing on the inside. This is a great view on board here, and Brennan does not fancy the run on the inside at the old hairpin, and that's probably a wise move as they head back up the hill. And Trafford King is under real pressure from the young 16-year-old who'll be racing in the Swift Sports Challenge later this year. Of course, it's May 11th at Silverstone. We're very much looking forward to seeing those already record-breaking cars, fastest selling race cage in Tequila history, as we've got a bit of side-by-side further back with Alex Stockton trying to make a move on Rory Mallinson, but it didn't really pay off. And I think that has invited Ben Goodwin to get up the inside as well. Yes, it has. So that's 6th, 7th and 8th position being disputed there. Leaders make their way back down the start finish straight. Paul Forsyth getting it a bit tail happy on the grass on the exit of the chicane. Jake Hewlett leads by 1 second after setting the fastest lap of the race, a 1:05.5. And Trafford King, instead of heading after Jake Hewlett, is slightly more concerned with what's happening in his mirrors, with Shea Brennan and Jackson Carden bearing down on him. Paul Forsyth just starting to fall back from this trio of cars that are now fighting for the last 2 spots on the podium. So back up towards McLean's then. Brennan's already had 1 look at second place. I'm sure they'll have another, but 2 wheels on the grass there on the exit of McLean's. Need to keep it neat and tidy. Brennan chooses that wider line through Coppice. Getting a little bit of a tow as they get up to 6th gear, and then on the anchors back down to 3rd. These motorcycle engined machines doing An absolutely cracking job of that, and fastest lap of the race being set by Trafford King, actually last time around. So has brought the gap back down to, or it stayed at around about a second, and doing enough to keep Shea Brennan at bay for now. As we've got Callum Neve on the recovery after that first corner incident at the old hairpin. Now Shea Brennan here looking under a little bit of pressure for this last spot on the podium, with Jackson Carden piling on the pressure on the 16-year-old through McLean's. Surely Carden will have some sort of a run through Coppice. You see that last lap from King has been able to establish a little bit of a gap between himself and Shea Brennan. So back down Starkey straight. Carden's not close enough for a big lunge, but certainly is very much occupying the mirrors on Brennan's car. That's if they have mirrors enabled. I know an awful lot of sim racers choose to have the mirrors blacked out just to save a little bit of that RAM space. See, Brennan was able to pull a bit of a gap in those last couple of corners, and so isn't under as much pressure from behind. Maybe a sloppy couple of corners there for Jackson Carden potentially, as we got Mad Chip and Ryan Turner slightly further back, fighting for 13th and 14th. All of these are points paying positions, by the way. Oh, hello, contact again slightly further back. That was Callum Neve. I think getting into the back of Sam Hayes in the yellow car. Yes, it was. So Sam Hayes having to gather the car up on the exit of the old hairpin, and managed to eventually get it pointing in the right direction again. But that's a big loss of momentum for Hayes, and certainly a position loss as well. Leaders back down towards Redgate, and the pace is looking very, very similar at the front of the field. But last time around, it was Shea Brennan with the fastest lap of the race, a 105.2. Just 1.5 seconds separating the top three, only 2.1 separating the top four. 9 minutes to go in this race. Yeah, back up the hill. That bank on the left-hand side, probably one of the better viewing points on the circuit. One of the beauties of Donington is it's, well, much like Brands Hatch, sort of forms this natural bowl where you can see so much of the racetrack from one vantage point. Certainly one of my favourite commentary boxes to go and visit, because there's very rare blind spots out there. So back through the chicane. Lead gap still hovering at around about a second, but Jake Hewlett managing to do the fastest lap of the race again. Last time around at 105.1. Still the gap just hovering around 1.1, 1.0. But Shea Brennan really did fall off the back of Trafford King on that previous lap. In fact, has lost third position to Jackson Carden. Don't know if Brennan went deep into Redgate, but Carden's on the inside going into the old hairpin, and that is a change for third position. But Brennan tries the up and under. They're still side by side as they head back up the hill towards McLean's. So through the left kink and then braking for the right-hander, and Brennan's going to take third position straight back. But Carden's still on the outside. Plenty of space left on the left-hand side there. That was very fair racing from Brennan, who still has the inside line going into Coppice, but that is not going to dishearten Jackson Carden at all, who's still on the outside and maybe has the momentum to just pull across the nose of Brennan when they get into the chicane. Yes, he does. And so, oh, but he gets very sideways on the way into the corner. They make contact at the apex. Brennan's in the barrier, and Paul Forsyth goes through into fourth position as well. And so that very fair and clean battle for third position did in the end up in contact, with Carden getting it all wrong under braking. It was very sideways on the way into the corner, and poor Shea Brennan didn't really have many places to go. So we've got Jensen Swift now slightly further back on the inside of Ben Goodwin at Redgate. That's a change for 8th position. Well, something had to give in that battle for third, didn't it? And that now means that Jackson Carden's about 5 seconds away. That one lap really dropped him 2 or 3 seconds there to Trafford King, who's still hovering within a second as Ben Goodwin tries to come back at Jensen Swift. And so this is looking very ominously similar to what happened between Carden and Brennan on the previous lap, with Jensen Swift just pulling across the nose there at Coppice on Ben Goodwin and getting 8th position secured, a bit more secured than it was earlier in the lap. What a big lock up there from Trafford King going into Redgate, who's not letting Jake Hewlett out of his sight and very much keeping Hewlett honest here, and very much putting the championship leader in a position where if he makes a mistake, King will be there to pounce. Trafford King, a 30-year-old from York, who was the Ski Type R Trophy novice champion the year after Jake Hewlett won the overall title, and finished 3rd in the standings last year, and he's made his intentions very much clear. In his 3rd year in the series, he's going for the title. Shea Brennan on a bit of a recovery now after that contact with not only Jackson Carden's car but also the tyre barrier on the exit of the chicane that they're just coming through now. In 5th position, looking at the back of Paul Forsyth's car. So through Redgate, these two now 10 seconds away from the race lead as Brennan just again dips 2 wheels on the exit of the corner, this time at Redgate. Plenty of curb at the old hairpin. You see having just a little snap, a little correction through the right-hander, the lowest point on the circuit. 4 minutes left to go in this race. And Shea Brennan still trying to recover one of the positions lost after that battle with Jackson Carden. And has a really good run here down the Wheatcroft straight and towards Redgate. Has to go to the outside line and go all the way around the outside, but that's a cracking move from Shea Brennan to get back up into 4th position ahead of Paul Forsyth. So Shea Brennan up to 4th and could still potentially set their sights on Jackson Carden, but 3.5 minutes left on the clock and about 4 seconds of gap to make up. Looks like Ryan Turner's had a bit of a drama at the chicane. Now, I don't know what happened between the leaders towards the end of that previous lap, but the gap suddenly was nearly doubled because Trafford King was just about bringing that gap to under a second. It was about 8 to 9 tenths. Suddenly, it's now 1.8 seconds, and so potentially a little bit of traffic at play there. And Simwolf VR going a lap down. And with 3 minutes left on the clock, that might have just cost Trafford King any chance of trying to win this race. Still trying to mount the pressure on Hewlett, of course. Oh, dramas for Paul Forsyth, having just lost 4th position to Shea Brennan. Now goes for a spin out of... Where is that on the track? Is that at Redgate? Yep, just heading down the Crane curves, and that's quite a costly mistake because he's lost position to Rory Mallinson and Alex Stockton as well. So now down to 7th position for Forsyth. Of course, has had a couple of podium finishes in recent races. 2 coming at Thruxton in the Clio Sport race. Jake Hewlett and Trafford King actually tied on podiums at 13 apiece as it stands. And it will stay a tie if things end as they are. Shea Brennan also on 2 podium finishes for the season. So we ride on board with Ben Goodwin in 11th position, trying to secure a top 10 spot with Mark Crawford, the car just in front of him. Ben Goodwin, another youngster in the field, just 17-year-old from London, and son of Gary Goodwin, who races in the Carmel Porsche Trophy. He's going up against the 48-year-old Mark Crawford from Banbridge in Northern Ireland, the former superkart racer. Battles all the way through the field with Sam Hayes trying to fend off Ryan Turner as well. Hayes hoping to do a couple of track day trophy events this year, but Ben Goodwin seems to have lost out there. Is it Mad Chip who's just gone past both of them? Looks like it is. And Ryan Turner seems to have had a drama somewhere in there as well, because he's suddenly going slowly. But meanwhile, the checkered flag is being readied for Jake Hewlett, who had to withstand a little bit of pressure from behind, but ultimately was rather unchallenged out at the front of the field. And it is victory number 13 for Jake Hewlett in round 6 of the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship, powered by Grid Finder, and a perfect start to the Radical Club Challenge night for the reigning champion. And I believe with that, has he now matched Trafford King's win record, or he's now usurped Trafford King's win record from last season. So 13 wins to 12 for wins in a season, and yeah, that is a remarkable achievement from Jake Hewlett. Win number 13, it's Trafford King in second, and Jackson Carden once again on the podium. Oh, Mad Chip just getting it wrong and might lose his top 10 spot here. In fact, he does, and so Ben Goodwin does get the top 10 in the end, as he managed to pass Sam Hayes, and then Mad Chip having that little moment on the last lap. And so a record setting victory for Jake Hewlett in race 1 of the Radical Club Challenge. A 13th win of the season. Of course, Trafford King has 15 total. But then we're going to start getting into arguments about whether the summer sim event counts, or whether his unofficial, whether Jake Hewlett's unofficial victories from last season count as well, because he did technically win 2 races, but as a guest entry for the final round, it wasn't scoring points for those ones. But nonetheless, in terms of official Winter Sim Championship wins, that's a new record set for wins in a season. Jake Hewlett, 13 wins. Trafford King scoring his 14th podium of the season. He and Jake Hewlett still tied on podiums for the season, with Jackson Carden scoring his 9th of the season. It was Shea Brennan in 4th in the end, with Roy Mallinson in 5th. Alex Stockton in 6th, then Paul Forsyth. We saw that spin for him later in the race. He was 7th in the end with Jensen Swift in 8th. Callum Neve in 9th. Ben Goodwin pipping Mad Chip in the end to 10th position. Sam Hayes in 12th. Mark Crawford in 13th. Ryan Turner in 14th. And Simwolf VR in 15th position at the back of the field. And so race 2 to commence shortly, and it will be the same grid as we had for race 1. So once again, Hewlett and King starting on the front row of the grid, with Shea Brennan and Jackson Carden lining up on the second row. We saw Jackson Carden make a slightly better start than Shea Brennan in race 1, and Brennan was able to repel Carden's advances through the corner curves, but will we see the same thing again? Remember, Carden made a couple of excellent starts at Brands Hatch with some slight help from the undulations, but Carden's always been rather rapid off the line. And potentially could have been a race winner had his pedals played ball back for the Calm All Porsche trophy round at Donington Park, where he was very much piling on the pressure on Jake Hewlett. And perhaps if things played out a little bit differently last time out for the low-cost race at Brands Hatch, where Carden and Hewlett were knocking 7 bells out of each other for the win. But we'll see how race 2 pans out shortly. Of course, that does extend Hewlett's championship lead once again to 10 points. And of course, we'll be thinking an awful lot about the endurance finale, the 50-minute race for the 116 trophy at Croft on the 4th of February. So the 116 trophy being represented by the BMW 125i in Assetto Corsa. And you do get the 120 coupe alongside the 116 trophy in its real world counterpart. But 116 trophy, which has very much proven to be one of the most fabulous grids in 750 Motor Club. But we're underway now for race number 2, and again, big puffs of smoke as they pull away from the line. And once again, it is Jake Hewlett who has got the whole shot into the first corner. Shea Brennan making a better start this time, but side by side for the lead as Traffic King tried to get up the inside. Couple of cars coming a cropper at Redgate. One of them is Rory Mallinson. I think there are a couple of cars spinning to the inside as well, but it's Hewlett with a couple of car lengths going into the old hairpin, and Shea Brennan really mounting the pressure once again on Traffic King. Brennan, we're hoping for another opportunity to have a crack at the reigning champion after contact with Jackson Carden in the previous race while they were squabbling over 3rd position. Back up the hill for the first time of asking in this race towards Coppice and down the Starkeys Straight. And Jackson Carden with the momentum there on the inside has just got their nose alongside, but the slipstream potentially favouring Shea Brennan there as Brennan just was able to pull across. And so line astern by the time they got to the chicane. Paul Forsyth waiting in the wings there as well. So at the end of the first lap, it's Jake Hewlett that leads by 0.8 of a second to Traffic King, then Shea Brennan and Jackson Carden, Paul Forsyth, Ben Goodwin up into 6th position, then Jensen Swift and Alex Stockton, Sam Hayes in 9th, and Rory Turner, completing the top 10. Oh, spoke too soon for Paul Forsyth as he's had another spin at Redgate. That's his second one of the night. And so drops down to 9th position, 10th position in the end. Made it much earlier in the race, and therefore it's a much more costly error. So that promotes Goodwin up to 5th position, Swift up to 6th, Stockton up to 7th, Hayes up to 8th, and Turner up to 9th. As we see, 3 cars once again, as it was in the earlier stages of race 1, absolutely line astern in the battle for 2nd position. Traffic King in the yellow and black car, then Shea Brennan in the red and slightly more black tinted car, and then it's the white and red machine of Jackson Carden in 4th position. And of course Jake Hewlett, who's just done the fastest lap of the race, 1:05.5. Love seeing that squabble in his mirrors as that looked like Jensen Swift going up to 5th position. It is side by side, he and Ben Goodwin. So Swift around the outside of Redgate, and Swift managing to make that move stick in the end by the looks of it, with a great move around the outside of Redgate. And so another youngster, 2 of the youngsters there. Of course, we were talking about Ben Goodwin, son of Gary Goodwin, and Jensen Swift there, the 16-year-old Carter from Darwin. Great to see the youngsters getting their elbows out. And speaking of youngsters, Shea Brennan in third position, just losing a little bit of momentum against Trafford King. See, that gap's opened up to about 0.8 of a second, and once again having to be more preoccupied with Jackson Carden behind than with Trafford King ahead. And Shea Brennan always has pretty good momentum through the chicane. Problems for Sam Hayes through McLean's and Coppice, and now slow on Starkey Straight, and Paul Forsyth getting involved in there as well. So Hayes and Forsyth side by side through the chicane in the two identical cars. But it's Hayes ahead for now. So this is turning into a slightly disastrous race for Paul Forsyth, but he gets one of those places back on the inside at Redgate. And so back up into 13th position for now. As we rejoin the battle for third. Jackson Carden hoping to go for a 10th podium finish of the season, having just finished third in race number 1. Shea Brennan going for their third. Was the opening race of the season, race 1 of the 5 Club Racing MX5 Cup at Anglesey, and race 2 of the low cost championship at Brands Hatch. That Brennan has been on the podium before. Callum Neve here in 9th position ahead of Rory Turner and Mad Chip. Got Mark Crawford making a move on Sam Hayes. And Sam Hayes getting it very sideways on the exit of the first corner. And so the 24-year-old from Bedfordshire had to really gather the car up there, but it was well held. And in fact, retakes the position from Mark Crawford, who ends up on the grass on the exit of the old hairpin. So the former superkart and motorcycle racer losing out a little bit there. Has raced in F1000 and the Road Sports series as Mark Crawford, and potentially returning to the Master 7s for this year. That's Mad Chip getting a little bit roughed up at the chicane with Sam Hayes and Paul Forsyth both making their way through. Say the yellow ambush from the similar liveried cars. 1 second the gap between Jake Hewlett and Trafford King, and so it's got all the shades of race 1 where the pace between the top 2 is incredibly similar. They were trading fastest laps during race 1, 1:05.0 for Jake Hewlett last time round, fastest lap of the race as we go on board with the reigning champion. The gap now up to about 1.2 seconds though, but at the very least is pulling away from Shea Brennan and Jackson Carden behind. So down the hill at Craner Curves and into the old hairpin. You can only imagine what hustling an SR3 around Donington in the real world must feel like. Of course, it was Shane Stoney took 3 wins out of 4 in the races held at Donington Park in the real world series. One going to James Keeville, raced on both the National and the Grand Prix layout as part of their season opener and season finale for this year, for last year, I should say. You see that gap to Jake Hewlett has just been increasing again. It's another 0.3 of a second pulled on that previous lap, so now 1.5 seconds the gap between Hewlett and King. There's seems the gap between Brennan and Carden seems to be ebbing and flowing a little bit more. It's about half a second between the pair, who have scoreboard over many a podium spot throughout this season. Shea Brennan fourth in the standings and Jackson Carden third. And going into tonight, splits by only 1 point between them. 244 for Carden, 243 for Brennan. Of course, Carden will have picked up 1 point over Brennan in that previous race, finishing third to Brennan's fourth, but still incredibly tight between them in the championship, and they're both very hot contenders to finish third in the standings, especially with Dave Martin not competing this weekend and Rory Mallinson starting to drop back after a strong start to the series. So back into Redgate, and Brennan using a bit more of the curb and kicking up a little bit of dust on the exit of Redgate. Just under 6 minutes left to go in this race, and it's still Carden haunting the back of Brennan's car, and he was the one that time getting a little bit more curb and a bit of dust, and I think having a bit of a swapper as a result of it, this time through the old hairpin. Hasn't seemed to spoiled his resolve though, as he's still about a car length behind Brennan. Didn't go on board with Carden, and again we see the two very different lines through Coppice. See how good the slipstream is here. Oh, problems for Mad Chip further down. And that's at Redgate. Another fastest lap of the race from Jake Hewlett, but it is looking much closer now in the battle for third position. It ended in tears in race number one. How's it going to end this time as Carden pulls to the outside at Redgate, and Brennan has a swapper with that tighter line taken through. Has still been able to just stay ahead of Carden for now, but does have to leave a car's width on the outside through the Craner curves, and Carden with the inside line going into the old hairpin. This could be the change of position. Brennan tries to brave it out. They bang wheels, and Brennan's the one who goes off as a result of that. So once again, it's contact between Brennan and Carden, where Brennan has come off worse in their battle for third position. So Carden's gone through squeaky clean, but Brennan with a pirouette and down to fourth position, and has got to keep an eye for Jensen Swift behind, because you can see he's right there. So it's Swift and Goodwin not separated by much at all, with Alex Stockton about a second behind that as well. As we're on board with Swift, as he just has to do a little bit of opposite lock. You can see he's within the sight of Shea Brennan, but also well within the sight of Ben Goodwin as well. Listen to the motorcycle engines screaming. Now, was that Shea Brennan going for a spin at Redgate? Yes, it was. So another spin in the space of a lap. This time, seemingly fully self-induced for Shea Brennan, and that drops the 16-year-old down to seventh position now. Really scruffy few corners here for young Shea Brennan, with just 3 minutes left on the clock. Of course, not what we want to see at all, but that has promoted Jensen Swift, which will easily be Jensen's best finish in any 750 Motor Club Winter Sim Championship race. Best finish was 8th going into the season. The 16-year-old Carter from Darwin on for fourth position, if they can stay ahead of another youngster, Ben Goodwin, the 17-year-old, in these final 3 minutes. And the slightly more experienced Alex Stockton, the 30-year-old from York, hounding them as well. So Ben Goodwin potentially looking to follow in his father's footsteps as a racer with the 750 Motor Club, has been on the podium twice in 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship competition. I must admit, I looked down at another screen, so I don't know if Alex Stockton had a bit of a moment or a spin there. It looked like he was going very slowly when my eyes rejoined the screen there. A bit of a slide, I'm told. And Sam Hayes here getting into the back of Mark Crawford, and that's not what you want to see at all at McLean's. They both go around as a result of that, and hopefully they'll all be sorted out by the time the leader arrives on the scene. He's now 1.7 seconds clear of Trafford King, and has put laps on a couple of cars, mainly because Manchip is in the pit lane. So we can get a look at Jake Hewlett's inputs here as we run on board with the reigning champion. It's plenty of curb on the right-hand side, but the car looks so settled when he ran over them. And goes across the line to start his final lap of the race. And so far it's been absolute perfection once again from Jake Hewlett. Oh, now car coming off the road right in front of him. Jake Hewlett didn't decide to play it safe there at all. Just ran completely to the edge of the track and prayed that Sam Hayes there would recognise that he was coming up on him. That was very brave from Hewlett there. Still Ben Goodwin in 5th position, closely following Jensen Swift. Shea Brennan, disappointing race for Shea. Still potentially an opportunity to take 6th away from Alex Stockton, but of course opportunities are running out as the clock has hit 0. As Jake Hewlett makes his way down Starkey Straight, and just one more braking zone, a right and a left for him to navigate, and it will be victory number 14 for Jake Hewlett in race 2 of the Radical Club Challenge in the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship, powered by Grid Finder. Another absolutely dominant performance from Hewlett. Once again, it's Trafford King and Jackson Carden joining him on the podium. So the same rostrum that we had in race number 1. And oddly enough, played out in a very similar way as well, with Hewlett getting away at the front, King trying to match him on pace, but ultimately failing to do so. King, Carden and Brennan close before King pulled away, and then Carden and Brennan making contact in their battle for 3rd. In fact, it played out almost identically to race number 1. Maybe things will play out differently in race number 3 later on, but we've still got cars making their way up towards the timing line. Mark Crawford after that little incident with Sam Hayes earlier in the race. Just made his way up to the timing line. And so victory number 14 for Jake Hewlett in the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship, powered by Grid Finder. His 15th podium as well, and a 15th podium for Trafford King, his 2nd of the night. Jackson Carden takes his 10th podium finish of the season in 3rd. And of course his 2nd of the night as well. Jensen Swift gets his best finish in any 750 Motor Club Winter Sim Championship race with 4th position. The young Carter finishing just ahead of another youngster, Ben Goodwin, in 5th position, and Alex Stockton in 6th. Shea Brennan, kind of what could have been in that race, couple of spins and contact again with Jackson Carden in 7th. Rory Mallinson in 8th. Callum Neve in 9th. Rory Turner in 10th position. Paul Forsyth, again, a spin for Paul, and much earlier in the race as well, meant all the recovery work had to be done through the race. He was 11th in the end, with Mark Crawford in 12th. Simwolf VR in 13th. Sam Hayes in 14th. And Mad Chip in 15th position. Sorry, it is Ryan Turner. Excuse me, not Rory Turner. I'm getting him confused with Rory Mallinson. So thanks to Tom, who's looking after me in the producer's chair for that one. Another driver hoping to do some rounds of the track day trophy this year is Ryan Turner. So we wait for race number 3 grid to be set up. It does involve a switching of the server, so it might be a slightly longer gap between the races than we had for race number 2. So once again, we'll remind everyone about the Radical Club Challenge, rebranded from Bike Sports. The SR1 class being introduced for 2025, joining the SR3, which we're racing here tonight, the PR6, the Club Sport, and the Pro Sport models that we currently see in that series. But really open to any motorcycle-powered Radical sports car. It is the most cost-effective way to race Radicals in the UK, and so I'd very much urge anyone out there who has a Radical lying around to see if you're eligible for the championship. It does provide some of the highest quality Radical racing, great entryway into prototype competition, and a great way into motorsport in general as well. So a reminder as well about what the drivers are playing for. Our prizes being offered up by the Virtual Racing School, who have a Pro Formula steering wheel up for grabs for the champion, and 2 light steering wheels for the 2nd and 3rd place drivers. And we will also be having random draws for anyone outside of the top 3 to win 3 annual subscriptions to the VRS competitive plan, and those are $120 each, as well as 3 annual subscriptions to Team VRS group coaching. Those are $100 each, to further develop the skills of our esports drivers. Of course, we have seen plenty of the real world drivers take to the esports scene. Trafford King was not much of a sim racer before getting involved in the 750 Motor Club Winter Sim Championship. Was very much focused on his real world competition in the Takiba Type R Trophy, but went and dominated the first season and won the steering wheel pedal bundle that was awarded to him at the awards night last year. And a reminder again that the finale to the 2024-25 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship, powered by Grid Finder, will take place on the 4th of February. The 116 trophy being represented by the BMW 125i at Croft for a 50-minute endurance race. The slight tweak in the format there to represent the real world 116 trophy, where we have 90-minute races in addition to the 116 sprint trophy races as well. We tend to get quite a lot of crossover in the teams and drivers competing there, but the endurance races, the 116 trophy, probably is one of the best value for money racing series in the world, with absolutely incredible competition and absolutely humongous grids to go with it as well. So we're on the grid then and ready for the final sprint race of the season as we get underway. And once again, it is Jake Hewlett who leads the field with a good start down towards Redgate. It is Shea Brennan and Jackson Carden again vying for that 3rd position just behind Trafford King. Callum Neve, having a bit of a swapper and overcorrects and pings it into the gravel trap. Amazingly, no one collected him, but side by side for 2nd position with Shea Brennan, going to be on the inside at the old hairpin on Trafford King, and young Brennan goes through into 2nd place. Jackson Carden fancies a run of the action as well, as he's side by side with King now as well. He's going to have to go the long way around for a little bit, but when he gets to the right-hander at McLean's, will have the inside line and fancies a run at Brennan as well. Fantastic action in the opening lap of this race. Traffic King down 2 spots. Shea Brennan up to second, Jackson Carden up to third. Traffic King tries to retake one of those places immediately. And Carden's not finished yet because he's now side by side with Shea Brennan down Starkey Straight and will have the line going into the S's as well. Traffic King's got a brilliant view of this. Paul Forsyth trying to come around the outside. Amazing stuff. And in the end, nothing really changed there, despite all the chopping and changing and vying for places. One car getting it wrong through the S's, but that was a cracking few corners there. Brilliant news for Jake Hewlett. He's already 1.8 seconds up the road at the end of the first lap. But it is battle resumed between Shea Brennan and Jackson Carden. And hopefully this time it won't end in contact as they're vying for second position now. Heading back down the hill, down the crane of curves and into the old hairpin. I'm sure Traffic King will be thinking, what on earth happened on that first lap? How did they get mugged? Oh, bit of contact down at the old hairpin. One car going off the road. Inconsequential to the leaders, of course, who now make their way around McLean's and back up to Coppice. You see again 2 very different lines. Brennan taking a more direct route to the Starkey Straight. Carden trying to free the car up a little bit and give him some momentum, and it has worked. He's on the inside line for the S's, but Brennan's so good on the brakes into the chicane, and Carden got a little bit compromised there, and that has allowed Trafford King to draw up alongside down the Wheatcroft Straight. He will have the outside line when they get to Redgate, though. Now, we've seen Brennan been able to make this move in previous races. Can Trafford King make it work? Yes, he can. So the reigning champion back up into third position and recovering one of those spots he lost on the opening lap. Great battles once again, as Paul Forsyth and Ben Goodwin are not too far away as well. As we've got Ryan Turner, Jensen Swift, Simul VR, Callum Neve and Mad Chip all in a queue here. Callum Neve trying to get the old up and under on Simwolf at VR there, and so the black and white car of Callum Neve just going through on the exit of the old hairpin and rising back up the hill. You see Trafford King has his sights set on young Shea Brennan, but hasn't quite been able to close up the gap with much ease. And I must say, Jake Hughes is absolutely flying at the front of the field. Nearly 3 seconds he's pulled in just 2 laps. That is incredible. Or 3 laps, I should say, excuse me. Incredible stuff. Rory Mallinson trying to get around Alex Stockton. A little bit of a lock up there from Mallinson. The 16-year-old from Chester, former grass track racer and future low-cost driver, hopefully. Going up against Stockton, who's getting more and more into the esports scene, having been a casual participant for a number of years. Already a third of the way through this race, and Trafford King is looking very racy now against Shea Brennan. Now, this seems to be a part of the track where Shea is incredibly strong, but King was still able to get a move done on the brakes there, but it didn't pay off, and Carden's back through. So Trafford King having to gather the car up, trying to avoid contact with Shea Brennan potentially. It's actually quite difficult to get 2 cars side by side through that chicane, as Trafford King has just found out, and Brennan is absolutely owning that bit of the racetrack at the moment, and so it's changed once again. It's still Brennan in second, but Jackson Carden now back up into third position ahead of Trafford King. All that work he did a couple of laps ago to get around the outside of Carden at Redgate, he's got to do it all again. 10 minutes left in this race. Mark Crawford just dipping a couple of wheels onto the grass on the exit of Redgate. Heading back down the hill in pursuit of Mad Chip. See a position change between Callum Neve and Ryan Turner, and that's why, because Ryan Turner has gone around on the exit of the old hairpin and has now dropped to very nearly last position, and may well drop to last in a couple of seconds' time when Sam Hayes gets around. Yes, he does, and that is the worst feeling in the world now for Ryan Turner. almost as bad as me calling him Rory in race 2. So Jackson Carden in at third position, about 0.8 of a second away from Shea Brennan, but only 0.4 ahead of Trafford King. It's battle resumed once again. We're on board with Carden in his pursuit of Brennan. These two have already come to blows twice tonight. Hopefully there will not be a third time. So we can see Trafford King, the reigning champion, hounding the back of Carden's car. Great onboard shot there. That's the red and black machine of Shea Brennan, the white and red machine of Carden, and then the yellow and black machine of Trafford King. And Carden's really pulled the gap in those last couple of corners. Absolutely incredible stuff. That seems to be the bit of track where he's really good. But this chicane, really, no one's been able to beat Shea Brennan through there. And I think he's clocked that now because he's just settled back and think, well, no, I'll find a bit of the racetrack where I'm much quicker than you, Shea, and I'll get round you there. Fastest lap of the race from Trafford King, but all eyes on the battle for second. Carden thought about a move down the inside, but Brennan had it covered. And so, oh, was that a loop there for Trafford King? I think it was. Yes. No. Oh, sorry. It looked like he was going around. Potential glitch on my screen there as he just gathered the car up. And he disappeared from view for a little bit. But no, Trafford King is there. Keeps driving like that. But Jackson Carden right underneath the rear wing pulls out to the outside for McLean's. And Shea Brennan holding the inside line through the right-hander. Again, leaving some space on the outside line there, but having to cover off Carden as they go into Coppice. And again, we're going to see two very different lines here as Carden tries to get the tighter line to get the run through. He's got a slipstream. Brennan's covering the move to the inside. Oh, was that a couple of maneuvers there? I'm sure Carden's not going to be thrilled about that defense. And that's the first time I think we see Brennan getting a little bit wrong. Trafford King got it very wrong as he went onto the grass, but has that little mistake there from Shea Brennan. That little swapper just cost them a place here because Carden's pulled to the outside line, doesn't go all the way around the outside of Redgate, tries to get the up and under as they did on the previous lap. And again, they run side by side down the Craner curves. It's going to be Carden on the inside line when they get to the old hairpin. Now, this is where they made contact in race 2 earlier on, and they're both much more cautious with it this time, with Carden just backing out of it when they got to the apex. And King has been relieved of that little mistake he made at the chicane on the previous lap, because he's now right with them, both getting it very sideways through McLean's. Absolutely incredible stuff, and that has just brought the gap back down, or back up again, between Carden and Trafford King. Carden's now really aggressive, weaving from one way to the other, filling Shea Brennan's mirrors, and not going for the move into the S's. 6 minutes left on the clock. Jake Hewlett's done another fastest lap of the race, a 105.2. His lead now 6 seconds over Shea Brennan. But this battle for second, absolutely enthralling at the moment. We see again, Shea gets a very good exit from the chicane and is safe by the time they get down to Redgate. And so Carden's got to do a little bit of work to bring down that gap once again, as does Trafford King. We've seen a couple of errors there from King on those previous couple of laps. I was told that the brake balance for this car was set very rearward, and that might explain why we're seeing some of the more tail happy moments out there, particularly mid-corner. The battle for second position, they make their way down Starkey's Straight and into the chicane once again. So we get another good view here of Trafford King trying to close down the gap, and again, King's starting to look like the biggest aggressor of the three. So he brings down that gap. But Rory Mallinson there in 8th position, trying to chase down Alex Stockton. Mallinson, who in addition to his grass track racing and low-cost testing, has become a top 2% driver on the last 3 Formula 1 games since 2022. And that's basically since EA took over for that game. Still got Ben Goodwin up ahead of them and Paul Forsyth in 5th position. So that's certainly one of the closer battles on the racetrack, with Callum Neve also trying to mount some pressure on Jenson Swift for 9th. Oh, what's happened to Shea Brennan? Shea Brennan's lost it. Now, they were separated by about a second, Brennan and Carden, over the timing line, so I don't think that was contact, and it looks like another self-induced spin for Shea Brennan, unfortunately, and I think it was again at Redgate, as it was in race number 2, and that has cost Brennan their best finish of the season. It was 3rd previously, and this 2nd place was about to be their best result. But that mistake at Redgate has just cost them, and so that is Jackson Carden up to 2nd, Trafford King up to 3rd. Paul Forsyth has also benefited from that as well. He's up to 4th. As Mallinson was piling the pressure on Stockton, but had 2 wheels on the grass on the exit of the old hairpin. And so running out of opportunities with less than 3 minutes left on the clock now. Trafford King 2/10 faster than Jackson Carden on that previous lap, separated by about 3/4 of a second. So we'll stick with this battle for 7th, because Stockton didn't get the best exit out of the S's and is very defensive on the way into Redgate. And so it's Mallinson to the outside. That was a lot of speed carried in, and it was too much speed because he never was going to make the apex there in a month of Sundays. And Mallinson skipping through the gravel, but looks like he's just about going to be able to stay ahead of Jenson Swift if he's lucky when they get down to the old hairpin. He's certainly going to have to think about Swifty when they emerge from the corner and complete the rest of the race, but didn't lose position there as a result of that slight eagerness on the left foot. Now, question remains in these last, what will be 2 laps of the race now, as Carden and King come across the timing line. Can Trafford King take 2nd place back from Jackson Carden? Heading into Redgate for the penultimate time. They're now nearly 7.5 seconds behind Jake Hewlett, who is going to make it another triple and win number 16 of the season in the 19 races we've run. Oh, and that's a big moment for Trafford King again at McLean's. And that has probably just cost him any hope of 2nd place now. That was a proper swapper. Very similar to what we saw him and Carden have at the same time a few laps ago. As we see Shea Brennan trying to close up the gap to Paul Forsyth, but with only a lap to go, I fear Brennan's going to run out of time before catching on to the back of Forsyth. And so Jake Hewlett on his final lap of the race now. Sorry, it'll be win number 15 for Hewlett. I was looking at his podium stat rather than his win stats. At 15 out of 18 races, excuse me. But the clock now hits 0 and the checkered flag being prepared, and it's been another absolutely dominant and unstoppable night of racing for Jake Hewlett, who is going to take his 5th triple of the season. And out of the final corner, it is victory once again in race 3 of the Radical Club Challenge, round 6 of the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship, powered by Grid Finder. Absolutely dominated by Jake Hewlett, who has pretty much put one hand on the championship trophy going into the 50-minute endurance finale. Jackson Carden in second position, his best finish of the night, but completes a clean sweep of podiums, as does Trafford King in third position. Shea Brennan, I'm sure, will be kicking themselves after a few costly errors. It could have been a few podiums tonight, but it's fourth in the end for Shea. Ben Goodwin in fifth. Paul Forsyth. Well, no, it looks like, Forsyth might have had some sort of drama on that last lap because he dropped 2 positions. So Forsyth in sixth in the end. Ryan Turner here, one of the last cars to cross the line, in 13th position. And that is all the action from round 6 of the championship. Just waiting for the results to be shown, and I'll give you the final running order. Yep, there we go. So it was Paul Forsyth in 6th, Alex Stockton in 7th, Jensen Swift in 8th, Rory Mallinson in 9th, Callum Neve in 10th, Mad Chip in 11th, Mark Crawford in 12th position, Ryan Turner in 13th position, Symbol Fiara in 14th, Sam Hayes in 15th position. And that is the final race result for round 6 of the Radical Club Challenge. The Radical Club Challenge, which is round 6 of the championship. We're just waiting to hear from Jake Hewlett, who now joins us in the commentary box. And Jake, it was another fantastic night of racing for you.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening. Yes, it's going very, very well, isn't it? It's not through want of putting a lot of hard work and effort in. You can see just how tight the margins are, but everyone was super quick today, so congrats to them. Looked like that last race looked really fun between Carden, King and Brennan, and
Well, what do you think about when you're seeing all that going on? Because you just keep driving off into the distance.
Well, obviously, understandably, you want to be in and amongst it, but at the same time, you want to win. So it's like a double-edged sword. I really want to be in and amongst it, and having battles and stuff, but you kind of want to win as well. So it's really quite difficult to. I wouldn't be able to tell you which one I'd rather have, to be honest.
Well, yeah. Were you more stressed during that race at Brands Hatch last week, or more stressed during these races?
No, I really obviously the pressure from Carden last week was immense in race 2. And to be honest, I wouldn't say stressed. I'd say I enjoyed it more than anything. It was such a good race between me. I think there was me, Carden, King, and Brennan were there, and a couple of the other guys as well. Sorry if I forget the names, but Brands Hatch was super fun. I absolutely love going racing and going door to door and side by side and getting the racecraft out as such, opposed to of course, if the guys battle behind, it obviously gives the guy in the lead a bit of a break. So, for example, there in race 3, I guess you could say I was fortunate that everybody started fighting, and thus it makes it a little bit easier. But Brands was insane. It was really, really good fun. And again, I want to commend Carden and King and all them for they had such great racecraft and driving, and the ethics was just really, really good.
Well, you set a new record tonight, Jake, for wins in a season. It's your 15th win.
Crikey. I didn't realise I had quite that many. That's incredible, isn't it? I think it was this time last was it this time last year? It wasn't even this last year, it was the year before that we come to Donington. So and I think that's where we done sort of a guest entry and got our first win. And we've been going ever since, which is it's good. It's nice to be a part of, and it's nice to be in and around such great drivers,
Exactly. This is where the stats get a little bit complicated, because Trafford has 15 total wins in the Winter Sim Championship. Of course, your wins at Donington in the F1000s, it was last season. You were not scoring points in that race, so I'm not the statistician who's going to claim whether they're official wins for you or not. And of course, the summer event as well. But in terms of official Winter Sim Championship wins, you've got 15 of them now, and in one season, which is a new record.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, thanks so much. Like, obviously, couldn't be happier. Obviously, would have been great to not have the technical difficulties that we had at like Thruxton, because Trafford was obviously going super well there. Would have been nice to have a fight with him up front. It'd also be nice to see the guys. Like, I think the podium should jump in and out the comms box and have a say as well. It's nice to get everyone's sort of opinion of how the race went and all the rest of it. But yeah, just again, congrats to the other guys, and I'm obviously super happy to have 15 wins now.
Well, cheers for chatting to us, Jake, and we will see you in a couple of weeks' time for the finale.
Yes, yeah, very exciting. Little endurance race. It's going to be pretty good. Thank you to you guys as well for putting this on as always. Thank you to Gridfinder, 750 Motor Club, etc. Hope you guys have a great evening, and I'll hopefully speak to you soon.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Jake Hewlett, new record holder and championship leader in the 750 Motor Club at VRS Winter Sim Championship, powered by Gridfinder. That's all for round 6, but we will see you in 2 weeks' time for the season finale, the 50-minute endurance 116 trophy race at Croft. We'll see you then.